Well, Mr. Eni Akinsola joins us now. He's a media practitioner and advisor and lead publicity executive at Agogo Publishers. You're welcome once again to Sunrise Daily.
My pleasure always. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, let's start with this last matter now. They were both lawyers, so maybe their perspective was a bit different. You're a journalist, and I don't want to say we tend to feel the pulse of the people more before the politicians come after us. But what are your thoughts on this? I mean, looking at the submissions of the gentlemen and also feeling the pulse of the people.
I miss a lot of the discussions. But what I got to, the point I got to, first and foremost, was the point on the courts being prevented from installing elected officials. I think so. The courts should only have their go before elections. Before the people take the final decision, the courts should have been given the opportunity to exhaust itself. Once the people vote, according to the law, then it won't be right to allow the courts to overturn such elections. And if there are compelling information, evidence for the court to overturn, then it must go back to the people for re-election, not to ask A, who ordinarily did not get the mandate of the people to stand in. But all of this cannot work under the presidentiality. We must rework the constitution. We must rework our laws. So our laws are the fundamental. They are the problems with us. The way our laws were configured, the ways they were made, there is no confidence in the law. There is no ownership in our country and in our law. We all feel that it is theirs, not ours. And until we sit down and talk and own it, own this country. I was born into Nigeria. I was born, I grew up to know that I'm a Nigerian. I would love that to remain. I would love that to continue. But I feel dangerously aggrieved. I feel that the future of my children are in danger. Everybody feels that. But I do not feel that the way to do is to destroy Nigeria. I feel that we must rework it. But where the problem is that some people say there is nothing to discuss about Nigeria. That's where the problem. We have two groups, two extremes. Those who say we are breaking down this Leviathan, we are destroying Nigeria, we want to go into our different communities and nations. And those who say, no, Nigeria is good as it is, we cannot talk about it. These are two dangerous extremes. There is nothing too sacrosanct to be discussed about Nigeria. We need to break it down and then agree. I also believe that if we break it down and agree, then the fact that I want to go Dudu, I want to go Biafra, I want to go Arewa will be removed. But unless and until we do that, these questions will come. Insecurity will be a regular problem.
So legitimacy is what, because at the core of this discussion is legitimacy.
Yeah.
When the former president talked about this, and he was saying that the courts should just stop short. They can look into the process, but if they find that the process is irregular, what they should just be able to order is a rerun. A rerun. Yeah. But the lawyers who have just left here believe that there will be no end to the agitations. There will be no end to litigation, so to speak.
Once the ground norm is right, once the law is correct, there is a finality to the legal process. And the earlier the finality is determined before swearing in. Look, it's a process that ought to end before we do any other thing. That process ought to end before we talk about swearing in. So if we have to rework our law to make sure that every other thing is done quite early, we have to. Or where, for instance, the final qualification comes a week to election. For instance, and I'm saying, I'm not using your platform to advertise, I'm a year older today. Oh. Everybody who knew me from primary one knew that I am a year older today.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. So it won't be possible for me to come out tomorrow to say that I am 49. A lot of people say, wow, this is not true. So we must clear all those things ahead of election. Nobody should be debating the certificate of any person a week to election, for God's sake. Those things ought to have been cleared eons ago. Nobody should be talking about qualification. The ultimate qualification we want to talk about on election is the qualification that the people, through their terms, put upon the candidate. That should be the in thing on election day. But here, we are still talking about his state of origin, his nationality, his date of birth, his certificate, whether it's NEPA bill or whatever, on the day, a week, 2 weeks to election.
But to be clear, we're not blaming the judiciary for this.
I do know.
Are you blaming them?
No.
For getting involved in...
I'm not blaming... that's why I say it's the law. It's the law. And you see, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, with the right resources, can access the law. Legitimately or illegitimately. It's just like the media. It's been so democratized that anybody can go on social media, they do a video and say, so is a thief. Since the burden of proof is not on him, society takes his word for who he is and move on. Some years ago, we had people saying a sitting president is the founder of so and so, and people believed and spreading the rumor. Society cannot go on. If you assert, you must prove. If you allege, you must authenticate. So I do not blame the judiciary for, if people did not bring cases to the courts, would the courts just generate cases on their own? No. So it's the law. It's our law. It's the way we are configured as a nation. There is distrust. There is that legitimacy problem about Nigeria. I said, if you take Nigerians, up to 50% do not believe in Nigeria. Because they do not own Nigeria. They do not see it as my country. And why? Because they do not feel part of it. They feel they are alienated, marginalized in their own country. We must get that first and foremost.
Well, one of the areas where, we're still struggling, it's a big challenge right now, is security. It's back on the front burner. This time around, I mean, since last time you were here, a lot of things have happened on the front of security. We saw the assaults, the attacks that happened in Imo last week. The police headquarters was burnt. We saw a jailbreak. People were let out of the prison, over 1,800 people at the last count. And then over the weekend, just as the weekend was approaching, we saw the formation of the Southeast governors coming up with their own security outfit, Ibubeago. And there have been questions. So only recently, I think just yesterday, they said they're going to come up with a legal backing for this particular outfit. It has taken a while, because there was a time when it would seem that was the trend. When Motekun was mooted in the Southwest, we saw a meeting of the Southeast governors and even some of the South-South governors, but it would seem that somehow the conversation there just took the back burner when the police kept on talking about community policing. I remember there was a conversation with the former IGP who went to the Southeast, and there was some controversy around what the idea of community policing the police was going to be about. But yesterday, or a few days ago, they finally put, a name to it. They have finally come up with their own outfit. How do you think, I mean, with your knowledge of what is happening in the Southeast, and also the challenges, the peculiar challenges they have in the Southeast, how do you think that this organization is going to function?
Such mutations will continue. We'll have such micro security networks coming up everywhere.
Is that micro? It's a macro.
It's macro now. I say it will become micro eventually. You see, already it's happening. You have your own security guard at home. There is a security committee on the street. There is a zonal security group. It will continue that way because there is no ownership. That is, my sister, it will appear too simplistic.
There's no ownership of what?
Just hold. Even the security, that's where I'm going. The police do not believe that you are part of them. I do not. You rather trust a man who had no security training to be your gate man than to allow a policeman. Why? Why? So it's an issue that, and each time people say, look, that things are going on well. No! We'll continue like that. Let me tell you where I think the Southeast governors felt that, look, we must do something. The circumstances of the jail incidents in Imo, yes, talked about military formations, police formations, government house around the prison. And we were told that they operated for upward of 2-3 hours. Nobody intervened. So people felt there must be something to it. And is that not suspicious? It is. If people shot for hours in a location and an army formation was some few minutes away, police formation few minutes away, government house few minutes ago, and nothing happened. Nobody apprehended, nobody intervened. Something is fundamentally wrong.
Not that they were overpowered.
Not that they were. There was no attempt to intervene. From what I have read, from what I have seen, except you have a contrary opinion. That means something dangerous happened. Across Nigeria, bandits, terrorists will run over communities, sack residents, take ownership, build houses. Nobody will intervene. Something is fundamentally wrong. That cannot be ordinary. So you expect the next community to sit down and not form their Ibubiagu or their Amotekun? You are joking. There is a saying, once the war pursues you to your doorstep, what do? You turn your back and fight. There's nowhere to run to once you are pushed to your wall. So societies, people, communities are pushed to the wall. They are taking action, precipitate action, some unjust action, some taking the laws into their hands. Because the law has refused to take consideration of their security, their safety. So they're subverting the law in order to keep safe. And that's why I say, until we sit down, look, there is no crime in unveiling everything and rebuilding. There is no crime. Our so-called unity was foisted upon us by the colonialists. Can't we, for God's sake, rework our unity? Is it too much to ask for?
Some people say, you know, because I don't know if what you're suggesting is another constitutional conference.
Call it by any name. But
there are those who say that, you know, what we actually need is a conversation, but it doesn't have to be a constitutional conference.
Okay. A conversation towards what purpose? A conversation towards to achieve what? If there are no positive, clear design changes to the constitution, to the grand norm, after the discussion, we are going nowhere. For instance, there is something called federal character. Federal character means that qualified or not qualified, if we are taking 12 people in a place, we must have from all other places. It doesn't merit is thrown into the dustbin. No society runs like that. No society runs like that. They want to go into your child.
Is that not how we've chosen to interpret it? The federal character did not say we need to throw merit away.
But that is what it means.
He didn't say we should do it to the detriment of merit. That
is what it means. If there is nobody qualified from my state for that position, what do? You close it for me? No, it means throw it away. That's it. That's the ramifying effect of that. That's what it interprets to. That is what it translates to. Your child wants to go to primary or secondary school. Somebody with 200 marks will not be qualified. Somebody with 10 marks will be qualified. No society runs like that. You create monsters out of everybody. Why not let us sit down? Let us remove these basic things, these lies that surround us. If you have a problem of arrested development in your own children, then let us create special training processes that will make your own children to grow up so fast. We pay particular attention to it. If somebody is, that's why you have the Paralympics, for God's sake. And this is not to demean anybody. The Paralympics are those who are challenged physically to run their own races with their peers. And those who, for instance, like Pistorius, could gain the use of their could eliminate their disabilities, are allowed to compete. You cannot make a physically, mentally challenged person to come and study with somebody who has all his mental acuity in place. Society we must. So it is not, I can't be a swimmer if I've never swum in my life. I have to be trained. I took these simple examples because that is the real problem. Small things. Until we have confidence in our nation, until I believe that my failure will not be because I didn't put it my best. My failure will be because I didn't put in my best. It will be because I didn't put my best. Not because there is one law that prevents me from getting there, but allows somebody else to get there. I won't feel bitter. We are running a race. You tie my 2 hands behind my back and you want me to run equally with somebody with 2 hands free. So these are realities. You take oil from some people's land, and they have to fight tooth and nail to get to the top of the hierarchy of the agency that runs the oil. It doesn't work that way. These are things, the dysfunctionalities that create insecurity, it creates fear, that it creates marginalization. And translates to, look, if it doesn't work, then let us break it. So
let us start from the solutions. If you're saying that we need to talk, we have spoken before. We've spoken many times.
Yes.
And the latest time we knew we spoke was 2014. The reports of the conversation in 2014, they're still there. I
just said some minutes ago, somebody said, let's have a conversation. I said, for what purpose? If the purpose is not to effect the changes that we desire, talking will not work. I said that some minutes ago. Yes, if we had that report, what stops us from implementing those salient points that we all agreed on? Okay, there are issues with those salient. Let some other group look at it or look at them and say, yes, on community police, let us begin to work on it. 2, on quota system, let us begin to work on it. 3, on population, let us begin to work on it. 4, on this, let us begin to work on it. But another team comes in, that one is dead. There is nothing good from that. And do something new. No. We can't talk about Nigeria. Our unity is so sacrosanct. But we cannot debate it.
The leadership of the country hasn't said that. The government of
there is a difference between what you have said and what you have done. What they have done is to say that we can't talk about it. I'm sorry, and this is...
No, what they have said is that all the conversations that need to take place should take place in the National Assembly. They believe that's where the conversation should start. And we know that at the beginning of every assembly, the National Assembly takes it upon itself to do a constitution amendment. In other words, trying to take in some of those those sore areas which we think we should have a conversation about into consideration with a constitution amendment. Why is it difficult to talk about? Why is it difficult to bring these issues that are contentious into the constitution amendment committee?
What they have said is just what you have said. What they have done is different. Okay, what they have done is this: the majority of members of the National Assembly belong to one party, so they have this opportunity to just go ahead and make these changes with little or no opposition from anybody. But this is what they are doing.
No, that's not what happened.
I said what they have said is even what they are doing.
No.
They are dragging, I must say this. What have they done to put effect to these things that we have agreed on? Now let us maybe educate me.
When you say that members of the National Assembly, majority of them belong to one party, it is true at the national level. But to effect a constitution amendment, you need 2/3 of state assemblies, which might not necessarily be in the same party with that of the national level.
What have been thrown from the National Assembly to the states in all these salient things that we have? Which of these issues? That's the point. None of these major issues have been thrown back to the National Assembly. So there's a big difference between saying, yes, we want to do it.
Thrown back to the National Assembly
by
who?
You said you will need, I'm taking you up from where you started. You will need the State Assembly to ratify whatever decision is raised or agreed on at the National Assembly. Okay, what are the salient issues that the National Assembly have worked on that now needs the concurrence of the state assemblies?
No, they are still taking up the issues that will be amended.
Okay, so we'll wait for another 8 years to get that one done. We are in an emergency, except we don't realize, except we do not want to accept it. I am saying that there is a big difference between the rhetoric of those in government and what they want to do. I said this, and I said this the other time I was here. The configuration of the National Assembly is such that their class structure will not allow any speedy action. The circumstances that brought them into power will not allow them to fundamentally change the Leviathan. So it's once you do not know why you are here, you can't get out of where you are. But they are taking it to this. They are I'm sorry. They are comfortable with the reality as we are. They are too comfortable.
There are some, well, maybe not all of them. There are those who will also say that, even among those who have agitated for a restructuring for so long, there was a time when it seemed like as if, a lot of people have been asking for restructuring and it looked like we're eventually going to get it. Then we now heard voices saying, look, let us beware, because the fact that you're asking for restructuring and it looks like it's about to be delivered doesn't mean that will answer all of the questions that you're seeking for and will deliver the immediate dividends of democracy which we all seem to be looking for. And there are some basic things we just need, sincerity of mind and heart. Let's take, for instance, doctor strike. Only recently they called off their strike. They've given a 4-week period within which they said they will review. You know, this is not the first time they're going on strike. Some people will say, if we're meeting them with sincerity of heart in the first place, why would our doctors be going on strike so frequently? Is that to do with restructuring as well?
The character and the content of those in government determines this. We have an agreement. Yours is to implement that agreement. You do not implement that agreement. You expect me to go and sleep? No, it doesn't work that way. Look at the ASU thing. It has been on for decades. Yet these fine points have not been executed up to today. So I say, until we understand the enormity of our problems, we'll begin to paper over it. And rather, it's like a sore. Rather than heal, it will fester. It will become gangrenous. So that is where we are in. It's the ASU thing has been on and on. ASU must go back. They go back. The next government comes in. They engage them. Please let them go back for the sake of our children. They go back and we go on. Now it's doctors. We've had doctors strike before. Issues that were agreed on were not totally implemented. Oh,
I forgot to add. Yes, you talked about ASU. ASUP is also there. Association of Academic Staff Union of Polytechnic.
I do not know all. But if I were in government, and knowing that we have this history of this strike, the first thing I would do is set up a committee with ASU, all the stakeholders in education. Table before them what I think we want to do. Let them revisit it. Let us agree and begin to implement. But the government comes in a year, 2 years, nothing. He will not revisit what had existed. He will not do things that had been agreed upon. Then those ones say, look, we have waited 2 years, 3 years.
The point is this. We don't need a constitutional reform conference to be able to resolve some of these things.
No, I have said this. I've said it. There are things we could do from what has been agreed on. And that's why I say, look, there's a difference between agreeing. The essence of constitutional talking is to act on what is agreed on. That's the essence. If, for instance, this government came in and started implementing the fine points that were agreed on by previous government, it would be difficult for anybody to go back to those things and say, let's start agitating for them. That's what I mean. But we are not doing anything about the SAW. Yet we want magic to happen. It's either we take the SAW, open it fully, and treat it effectively. Know the root cause. Why is this SAW festering? Or at least treat it so that it won't fester. But we're doing neither of both. We are hitting that same SAW on hard surfaces. We are creating
who should take leadership right now?
Leadership.
To say, who should actually take leadership for the conversation which you think should happen?
It starts, I'm afraid to say, it starts from the president.
Okay.
It starts from the president or the presidency, the National Assembly, the governors, like that. A governor might try what he could, but see, the man who calls the shot in Nigeria is the president.
Well, I think it's a fine place to leave it. See where you...
And sadly, we are with the president that we are with for now, till the end of this term.
It's a fine place to leave it. We have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Mr. Akinsola is a media practitioner and an advisor, and also lead publicity executive at Agogo Publishers. We see a few of your comments already. They're coming in already. Ako Modu, talking about the people and their ballot, says, people matter in a democracy. People's voices should be heard via the ballot during periodic elections. If candidates feel unsatisfied with the electoral process, the way to go is the courts. The courts settle disputes. Sometimes courts give out wrong decisions. Well, I guess the battle between Ot and East will be on for a while. Well, thank you so much, Ako Modu.
Well, I guess that's where a number of people are having issues. Henry says about the same issue, the contestation with judicial intervention is the advancement of technicalities over naked truth. Again, Ot and East. That INEC was disallowed in owning the result sheets in the Imo case is a rape of justice. What exactly do the courts represent? What is justice? I guess we have to go to the law school for that.
So that will imply that sometimes the truth is close. So you need to undress the truth as it seems. But take a look at this one from Tunde Banjoko. Strengthening electoral process says to strengthen the system, that's the electoral system, regulate the pay and make it less attractive to political entrepreneurs. So only those who wish to serve will contest. Then we will have less thuggery and contention on results. Political entrepreneurs. That's interesting.
Oh dear. Look at this one from Emmanuel White. He says the former president's suggestion should not be swept under the carpet by the judiciary using technicalities. Take the Supreme Court decision on the Imo election, for instance, where the fourth candidate was declared winner.
Professor Nakena, the courts and elections, for our courts to function properly, the government must do its part to allow NJC to appoint honorable men to forestall infectious and scurrilous gripes, allow for financial autonomy for it to appropriately discharge its duties, and avoid systemic corruption.
And this one by Victor Orwell. The laws are the main tools of our flawed electoral processes. This status must change. One cannot use a basket to fetch water from the stream. Christ. Okay, so you know what we decided to do, since this whole matter is out there being talked about so much. So we decided to put up a poll so that let's get your voices heard on this matter. So take a look at that. That is the question today. Should we limit the role of the courts in deciding who the winner of an election is? So look at those options there. Yes, no, doesn't matter, other. You know, for those of you who say, you didn't capture my opinion or my perspective, that other fourth option is for you. So while you do that, you can also comment if you want. I mean, it's a free country.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, opinions are free, as they say. So you can always go ahead and do that. So just go ahead and vote. Let's see what you think on this matter. So
I see the results are changing.
So
call us the
right?
empire in this case, right?
Oh yeah, so there you go. That is a live one. And I wonder what happens if we shift the burden of proof to INEC.
That'll be a major game.
Isn't that the counsel of the Honorable Justice? Yeah, that's what he's suggesting. So you can imagine if that were to happen. So if anybody is approaching INEC to manipulate elections, if INEC feels, look, we can't defend this thing, it will fall flat on its face before the law. So they'll just throw their hands up in the air, hands up. And then who knows. But you know, we could be wrong, because people will always find a lacuna in some of these things. But some think it will be a lot easier for anyone to say, INEC, prove that you conducted, there was substantial compliance the way you did this thing. So Michael, what do you think about that?
Well, I do know that this, even though you see the lawyers being gentlemen, very gentlemanly about some of these matters, you might see the National Assembly being besieged by protests from right, middle, left, center, those who will agree and those who will say, no, you cannot stand the law on his head. Those who say, you know, he who asserts must prove. Yeah. And you cannot just shift the question when it comes to electoral matters. Let us see if ever that conversation comes up, what the reactions would be. But I do know that that would not pass easily. It will be easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle, as they say, than for that to pass. But I think that substantially it could help with matters of justice. Well, that's why we have to leave the conversation this morning. You could get your voice heard. Let us, you know, hear from you. Send us a mail or, you know, tweet at us with on our Sunrise Daily platform. So with a Twitter handle on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching this morning. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
And yes, you can vote as well. I'm Kayode Okikule.
94 votes already. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day. I'm Chamberlain, so I will see you tomorrow.